So I thought what would be a good way to start is we just talked a little bit, JT, about our relationship and how we met. I think originally it was probably at the CrossFit gym, even AJ's first CrossFit gym,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Down here on Wrecker and right.
Right.
And we met there and we, just had like a normal kind of guys at the gym relationship. You were coaching. So, and then obviously just because of your like physical, stature, I was like, JT's probably somebody I should talk to, right? Like this guy I think might know some things about,
Right.
getting things done,
Right.
right? And then lo and behold, though, we started having even more conversations. And I remember specifically, and I guess I don't remember specifically, but I remember generally we started talking about goal setting and goal achievement and that kind of thing. And when that gym had moved down the road there on Higley,
Right.
I remember us having a specific conversation about, I think what I did was I shared with you my goal achievement for success.
Right.
I had like a whole presentation that I was doing with people at work. I would do like these lunch and learn kind of.
Right. Had the submarine and
Yeah,
everything. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Exactly.
still have it.
Okay. And that ultimately led to that discussion. The way that I'll tell you the way that I tell people how it turned out is it was like I don't know in between the powerlifting segment and a metcon or something,
Right. Right.
and I'm catching my breath, and you said something to me one day. You were like, because I would be talking to you, right, and saying like, "Hey, JT, yeah, I'm this, corporate guy, but one of these days I'm going to be a coach,"
Right.
right? And I remember, vaguely, it was something like that in between these sessions. And you said to me, because I was talking like I normally do, like this, saying, "Hey, someday I'm going to be a coach."
Right.
And I remember you saying to me something along the lines of, "Hey, Jeff, well, let me know when you do decide to become a coach because I'm going to be your first client."
Right.
And I was blown
Then
away.
it's real.
I Well, it was not only real. I went away from that conversation. Well, first of all, I didn't almost like want to believe it was true.
Right.
But I went away from that conversation and I was like, okay, shit, if I'm going to be a coach, like, how's that going to work? Like, how often am I going to meet and what am I going to charge? And all of
Right.
these, questions that I just hadn't faced came to be. And then I remember coming back to you again, and it was at some other gym session, right? Probably in between reps or sets or whatever. And I came to you and I said, "Hey, Jay," this is the way my memory worked.
Right. Right.
And I came to you and I said, "Hey, JT, like a week or so ago, you said to me, hey, when you do decide to become a coach, let me know. I'm going to be your first client." I was like, I was trying to feel you out because I didn't know if you were just like gym bros,
Right. Right.
like
Being nice.
talk
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
kind of thing. And no, it was clear in that conversation that you were for real. And so I thought I would just share all that because that's literally how my coaching journey started,
Yes,
was
sir.
just by us, having conversations and me doing one of the things that I do a lot of, which is just kind of talk out loud about what I want and what I want the future to be and that kind of thing. And then I just start like trying it out on other people
Right.
to, make sure they won't, look at me like I have two heads or,
Correct.
run away or say things like, you must be out of your
Right.
flipping mind, right?
Exactly.
And most times people don't say those things to me,
Right.
but sometimes they do, especially when I'm married. Sometimes they say those things. But anyway, that's how I remember the genesis of our
Right.
coaching relationship
That's accurate.
starting. And then we started meeting together every couple of weeks. We'd get together and chat about life and how things were going, for you in your world. And then we've been through this incredible, now over 3 year
Right.
journey
Right.
of working together. So you had the distinction of being not only my first coaching client, but up until the point when we ceased our work together in October or maybe September, October. Um, but up to this point, because you're my first client and working through just a couple of months ago, the person that I've worked with the longest,
Right.
right?
Right.
And you've done testimonials for me in the past. You did a written testimonial, which you could find, at the bottom of my website under testimonials is like your written testimonial, but something that we've been talking about for probably a couple of years now is finally coming true
Right.
today as we sit here and
Another goal.
yes, and do, because we were always saying like, yeah, we should get together and talk about some of the things that we've been able to do together, and the changes that you've been able to accomplish, and the success, and the success that you've had. I don't look at like as my accomplishment, but just things that we've been able to talk about together and that you've been able to make happen. And we've talked about like, well, wouldn't that be fun to be able to share that with other people? And that's really my goal in having this type of conversation, is just to talk about some of the either tools that you've been able to implement, or some of the even just different ways to think about things, and how that's been different for you. And like, if we can make it through this whole conversation without me, like tearing up, I will be surprised myself, because even as we were talking through some of these things in leading up to this, we've had moments where, I mean, not to get all like deep and right in the beginning, but like I feel like I've gained a brother,
Yeah,
right, in
certainly.
this,
Well, we've done crazy stuff, man.
in this
I
relationship.
mean, we've done crazy amount of stuff.
Yeah.
It's great, man.
So I'll start with some of my scripted questions that we'll just ask, just to kind of keep the ball rolling. We can go, wherever we want. But I thought it was kind of cool. I'm really glad you're comfortable talking about some of these things, because people aren't always comfortable talking about what works in your life or what didn't, or even this first topic is about money specifically, right?
Right.
And so you're without getting into like super specifics, you've been a leader in your career. You've mostly been in either sales or service roles
Correct.
through the majority of your career.
Right.
For I think the entire time that we've worked together, you've been just that. You've
Right.
either been in a service role where you're actively selling, or you've been in a service role where you're helping manage, that part of the business,
Correct.
right? And so I'm glad that you're comfortable talking about your kind of high water mark for yearly income before we started working together is about 120 a
Right.
year,
120.
right?
Right.
So I wanted to just kind of get your perspective on, and I'm just starting with money because, as Jim Rohn used to say, like, well, it's it's not everything, right? I mean,
Right.
we'll talk about lifestyle and so many other
Right.
things, but money's a good place to start, because everybody can wrap their mind around how money works.
And it's
And
measurable
exactly,
completely.
and it's measurable.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about where you were from a salary standpoint, and then where you were able to go over those, even if you just want to walk through the kind of timeline about how it
So
unfolded.
when we started working together, our first year we pulled $125,000 was what we paid, and I'm a commission employee.
Yeah.
Um, you got me out of that comfort zone, and basically what we did is we strategized how to best facilitate the most amount of income. What in your toolbox gives you the fastest and most amount of income? And so we started working on that. And in that aspect, it was training. So we came up with a flyer. We started sending the flyer out. We started doing training. And that became a huge influx of money. And then, picking the low hanging fruit. I think a lot of people go after a difficult spot when you haven't picked the low hanging fruit yet. If it's sitting there, take it and then climb up the tree when it's gone. But we started picking low hanging fruit. And then year two, we made 175. Year three, we made 227. Same job, uh, same customer base, um, same hours. Nothing changed. I wasn't working nights. I wasn't working weekends. I wasn't stressing it. We just strategized on exactly what we were going to do and how we are going to accomplish the number we put down. And that's where we're at today. We're at that same level right now. We're still climbing this year.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
That is so cool. I and as we continue to go through our conversation, it just continues to set up like other areas where like you've been able to excel in your life and just have either the what tangible rewards,
Right.
right, things of that nature. So that's kind of a cool segue. This was one that you reminded me of when we were having our pre-discussion about how this would go. And I didn't even remember this, but I want to talk a little bit about the time that you came up with an idea of a savings number
Right.
and then how that conversation with us went.
So
So,
we were probably a year in, and one of my goals for that year, we're doing our yearly goals. One of my goals was to save $25,000. And that was a pretty lofty goal. Um, and you just looked right across the table and said, why not 50? And I was just floored. I didn't know what to say. I mean, 25 was way out of my comfort zone. So I was figuring you were going to go, wow, that's a great goal, man. How did we get there? You're like, why not 50? And I just about smacked you. I was really pissed at the moment because I'm like, it's way out of my comfort zone. But we made 50. So, that's the thing is sometimes you don't expect enough out of yourself. That's why you need coaches. You need people around you that see things in you that can pull more out of you than you're willing to give. And that comes from a CrossFit background. That's what that team is about.
right,
Getting you when you're tired, getting rolling. And yeah, I was very surprised that you said, well, why not 50? Because it just made my 25 sound minuscule, which was a huge goal for me. But we wrote down 50 and we made 50. So, that's the thing, man. If you write it down, that's great, but you got to move forward.
right,
You got to have a plan for writing it down.
right,
Writing it down is the first step.
right.
But how are you going to save 50? So we said, well, here's how much we have to save every paycheck. And there it was.
And you ended up doing it,
Yes,
looking
sir.
back in the rearview mirror.
Yes, sir.
How cool. All right. So I wanted to kind of segue into some tools. They're tools that I've implemented in my own life. I like to talk about the tools that I use with my clients. Not everybody uses everything that I use.
Right.
Not everybody uses everything like exactly the way that I use it. And I'm not trying to get anybody to do that.
Correct.
I just like to introduce the tools that I've been able to use in my life to gain success or momentum or trajectory or any of these things, and then introduce them with the clients, let them try them on and see what works well. So, the first one that I wanted to talk about was the one-page plan,
Right.
right? And so, if I remember right, we created it's been several years ago that we worked on a one-page plan
Right.
for you. So can you just tell the audience a little bit about the one-page plan and how you've been able to implement that in your life and what that means?
Yeah, I mean, I have it right here. So the one-page plan basically is just a plan for your life. What am I going to do? What is my purpose? Where am I going? How am I going to get there? That's really the key. So let me throw my glasses real quick. Let's see, I don't work as well as I wanted it to, is it? So basically, we start with core values. So who am I and what am I about? Then we go to our core competencies. What makes me great? Then our purpose. What's behind it all? When you're making goals, what's behind it? Who am I? What are my values? What's my competencies? Um, and then you throw in your goals. And then we break those goals down monthly, weekly, and then daily. How do we get there?
Right,
And that's really how we did it. Was we simplified it and made it daily.
right,
What do I have to do if I'm trying to save $30, what do I have to do? I have to save $1 a day. That's how we broke it down in every single day.
right,
So then you have a plan every single day to get there. And that was really the whole part of the one-page plan, was just to figure out who you are, where you're going, where you want to go.
right,
And then if you have anything missing, you can fill that slot.
right. And what I wanted to ask you about, JT, was the structure, because even before we started working together, it was clear that, you weren't a guy that needed like motivation in your life, right?
Right.
Like you had that part, you've been like, even your physical fitness, right, is like a calling card for, I would say, your motivation for one. Like you were a goals person, like
Right.
before. Now I think you were searching, right? So just like when we met in the room at the CrossFit gym and I was
Certainly.
showing you my goals for success program, you're somebody who was always learning, trying to improve your own game. Is there anything specifically that came out of the one page plan that was maybe a change for you from what you had been doing in the past? Because again, it's not like you needed Jeff to have success in your life. You'd created a ton of success in your life before we met. But then when we started working together, we implemented the one page plan and then other things that we'll probably end up talking about. Was there anything specific from the one page plan?
Well, I think the one-page plan, if you review it consistently like I do, it keeps you. It's almost like the circle, the wheel of life,
Yes.
where you're realizing who you are, and so you don't get lost. So those core values, those core competencies, and that purpose let you realize why you're doing this. Why am I after this goal? I'm not
Right.
after just a bunch of money. Why am I after $225,000 a year? So I can help people.
Right.
So I can do more for my church. So I can do for my community. So I can buy nice things for my wife. So I can pay off my house early. Those are the reasons. So once you get, the core competence, it's very important to go through the one page plans consistently because it may change.
Right.
Your purpose may change. But
And it does, or the word that I usually use is evolve.
yes, sir.
Like it can evolve over time
Right.
because, 5 years later, like we're different. 3 years after we started working together, like
Right.
we're both different people
Right.
in different ways.
Right. But the purpose is really what it's all about.
Yeah.
That's what you really got to stay grounded with. And that's what putting it down on paper lets you know this is who I said I am.
Right.
So I better step up.
Am I being that
Yeah,
person?
am I being
Yeah.
that person every single day?
I remember in our pre-conversation, you'd mentioned the wheel of life just in this last conversation.
Right.
I remember you talking a little bit about, and maybe the audience doesn't know about the wheel of life, but it's basically just an assessment that you can do for yourself on some routine basis. About how often do you go back through and do like a new
I do
evaluation?
I do it weekly.
Okay.
I do it on Friday nights after I get off work.
Okay.
I stop and have coffee before I go home, and I do my wheel of life to see where I'm at.
Right.
Because over the weekend a lot's going to change,
Right.
but it's pretty fresh. What did I do this week that was out of balance? And basically, you're just doing it. It's just a spot check.
Right.
It's just saying, where's my balance right now in life?
Love that.
That's really what that wheel does, and it tells the truth after a while.
Right. Well,
You start getting patterns.
that is what I remember you saying, is like when you first started doing those wheel of life assessments and you'd give yourself a grade, and then we're going to segue here in a minute to the day of Zen and
Right.
taking some time to, check out and check in and all that. I remember you saying, I can't remember exactly how, it was like I had to get real with myself, right? Because
Well, I think it's real easy to look at something and go, my health or fitness or lifestyle. Oh yeah, I'm good. I'm a 10. I'm a 10. I'm a 10. Are you a 10? What's your goal? My goal is to be in the gym 6 days a week. If I made it 4, I'm not a 10. So it's real easy to do that and mark it. But when you start telling the truth on it and you look at relationships,
right.
am I talking to my friends consistently? Am I grounded? You look at your finances. Same thing. You look at your marriage, whatever it is, any of those in there.
Right.
It just, once you start telling the truth, and that's why it takes time. It's just like meditation. It takes time to figure it out because you really need quiet time and you really need to be honest. And that's where the purpose comes back, and the core values and the core competencies is you're constantly going through that, realizing what is important to you, what's a 10 to you. A
Right.
10 to you and a 10 to me is totally different.
Right.
Spiritual could be completely different.
Exactly.
So, that's why it takes some time to figure out what your 10 really is, because give yourself a bunch of 10s, then all of a sudden,
Looks good on paper.
yeah, but
Right.
where's the 50 grand you didn't say? Now I'm not a 10. So,
Love that. All right. Well, let's segue and talk a little bit about the Zen process, right?
Right.
So that is probably, I guess I would say now, reflectively looking back when I introduced that to clients, like one of the most not unnatural, but it's one of the harder things to break through is and I think it might just be because I don't know if it's because of the like selfish nature, like when you're
I think so.
taking time,
Yeah.
it's saying, okay, well, I'm going to carve this time out. And
Right.
again, I don't ask everybody to do this. I take a day a month
Right.
away from my work, away from my family, away from everything. And I retreat away to review and reflect and plan. So tell me about just in general, what is the Zen process meant to you and how did you implement it? Was it difficult? What does
It's
it look
it's
like
it's it's
for
very
you
difficult.
today?
I think not that you ask permission from anyone to go on a Zen retreat, but there is some guilt there because people think it's weird. You're taking time to meditate on who you are, where you've been, and where you want to be, and you're really absorbing the goals you've made. You're going over those again and again and again, and you're fixing those one way or the other, whether they're too high or too low. You're kind of going through that and then adding to them and subtracting from them. So the first couple times very difficult, just like meditation. It takes time. You might have a 15-minute Zen time and that's all you need because you're just going through it. But when you really start to delve down into it, and especially the wheel of life helps out a lot because then you're going through each step of your life, each part of your life that's important. Um, you're really reflecting on those, and the book you gave me makes you go through those and wonder why you're not where you need to be on that area, why you're not at a 10. And when you really get honest with yourself and get quiet, that's when it gets fun because then you realize you only have a couple of things to do to move yourself from a 6 to a 10. It's not that far off.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets exciting when you have all tens once in a while, which I had a couple months last year that were all tens, and
Right.
it was like
It feels good.
that's the balance, man, is great,
It feels great.
but it always keeps you balanced, you know.
Yeah. I think this might be an important distinction to make because I love the fact that we're talking right now about the self-assessment and you deciding whether it's a 10 or not. I wouldn't want my audience to also think or potential clients to think like with the example where, even the money that we talked about in the beginning and the salary increases, like you were deciding what the next increment was going to be,
Correct.
right? Not me.
No, not
And
me.
then, so I didn't want to make it seem like that time I challenged you on the savings and said, when you said 25, and I said, what about 50? Like there's every once in a while where I throw something like that in.
Right.
But the majority of the time, overwhelming
Right.
majority, it's you deciding like, what's the next step or what's the next thing or I just love the way that you're using that, like, what's a 10 example, right?
Right.
You've always decided what a 10 is to you.
Correct.
I always feel like it's my job as a coach to ask people questions. And we will get into lifestyle here in a little bit because I know that's one of the last things that we really worked on for you was
Right.
like lifestyle. Like, okay, great, things are going great in your life with income and savings and relationships and fitness.
Right.
Now let's start talking about lifestyle, right? And
Right.
how that lifestyle can be even uh, more rich,
Right.
right? But I think it was just an important distinction to talk about the fact because I don't want to make it
Well,
seem like
getting back to the savings part, you were trying to scare me. You were trying to scare me, and that's what I need from you. Not very many people call me out to scare me, and that's what I hired you for. You're my coach. You stretch me. You stretch my limits, and it scared me. I've been scared a couple times in my life. It scared me when you said I wasn't mad at you. I was scared
right.
because that was a big number, and I'm like, if he really is expecting that out of me, man,
What am I going to have to do
yeah.
to
I
get
mean,
to work
it's
now?
like the 4 minute mile, man. I mean, it just when someone sees it in you and they're like, "Why not 50?" It was you were scaring me, and that was just stretching me. And that's what I need is somebody to stretch me
Okay.
because I've been stretching a long time. That's why I came to you is to get stretched.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay. Well, this is the segue into lifestyle. So let's talk about that. So one of the things and this is, I love working on these lifestyle things with my clients. I mean, I love all the other stuff,
Right, right,
the income or promotions at work or better
right,
relationships with spouse or kids or, any of that. All of that stuff is so fun to work on. But once people have achieved a certain level of either, to use the word you've been using, balance, right? You're creating balance in your life. The word that I love is harmony, right? Where
right,
you have all these, like when you add all tens, right? To
right.
me, that's when life is really working in harmony.
Correct.
But one of the things that I love to work on is lifestyle, right?
Correct.
And once we got to a certain point and you were achieving all these other things, and we'll talk about the bodybuilding competition here, I think, to close. But after we got kind of some of those things behind us, we started talking about lifestyle,
Right.
right? And creating these different, I would almost refer to them as like experiences in
Correct.
life, right? And so I was challenging you to really stretch your idea of lifestyle. And so I wanted to, because I remember you even talking in our pre conversation about going back and researching lifestyle
Right.
after we talked about it. So
Well, that's really
just talk a little bit
that's
about
really
that.
what you said is, once you go through a few months of the wheel of life, if you're being real, you start seeing gaps. And we were 8 to 10s on everything, and then all of a sudden we were 6s on lifestyle, and then 5 on lifestyle, and the rest of it was growing, and the lifestyle wasn't growing with it. So I was doing all these great things, but not getting any experiences, and not spending any of my money having fun. Um, so my wife doesn't like to travel much. So you and I decided, you know, what's the goal? Well, let's start doing quarterly vacations, just staycations. She loves Prescott. We go to Prescott, get a nice place, hang out. It's all good. So we started doing that. That was the first part of it, and then it just becomes, what lifestyle, date nights. That it doesn't have to be anything extravagant, and then, we started setting up a yearly vacation, which I haven't done. And these are guilty pleasures sometimes. Sometimes especially if we've had kids before, we've set a lot of this aside of our own journeys and our own fun adventures, let's call them. And so we had to make goals to make that happen. It wasn't just, hey, go out and spend, $1,000 on a ring or whatever.
Right,
It was, what goals can we have to up your lifestyle so you're enjoying the money you're making or the hard work you're doing or whatever that be.
right,
Um, so that's what it became. It became a quarterly vacation, and then we started doing it monthly, which was great because the income was good, and then it just moved on from there.
right.
Then we had a nice trip to Vegas
Yeah.
where we hung out, and
I want to talk about Gold Canyon now, because that was one of the
okay,
first
yeah, yeah,
staycations. That was one of the first staycations, and again, I was trying to get you to stretch and grow,
yeah,
right? And so originally we were coming up with like some really big plans for like traveling out of state and some other things, and then eventually you just said like, Jeff, that's not going to work as much because my wife doesn't like to fly and other
right,
things, right? Which was cool.
right.
And so that's how we came up with the staycation thing. But I almost sense that you were gonna like, well, in my mind, I would call it like cheap out,
Right,
right, on the
right,
deal.
right.
And so I remember specifically saying something like, JT, I want you to, like, if you're gonna do this staycation and not do the big thing flying and all that,
Right.
I'm like, I want you to swear to me that this long weekend you're going to spend $1,200. And I said, I don't care
Right.
how you do it, right? Buy her a new dress, go to the best restaurant,
Right.
great bottle of wine, all
Get
that.
get the best room,
Yes.
and then we talked about, I had the dream of getting a car, a Mustang, and you said, okay, first thing I want you to do is go rent a Mustang. I want you to. You have a car, it's okay. Go rent a Mustang. Make this a whole dream weekend.
Yes.
That was the last time we spoke
Right.
before it actually happened. Um,
And then you called me on a weekend
yeah,
and it was after that you had done it. And what did you tell me?
I bought a Corvette.
I could have just about
I
fell.
sent you I sent you a picture first,
That's right.
and then I went across town and bought a Corvette and had no reservations whatsoever. And that's something I wouldn't do without your help. I mean, that's something without the steps we've done and getting out of my comfort zone on that part of my life. There's no way I would have just walked over. I just handed the guy the money. I went
Right.
over, looked at it, drove it, hand the cash, and have a nice day. I'll see you next time. There wasn't even a, let me kick the tires, let me go look around. It's the one I wanted. I bought it. I'm done. I drove it home. And boom, there it was. And I pulled up next to you at our next coffee meeting and said, there it is, man. That's because of you. That's because of you. And that was stretching me.
I love
And
it.
now it's and those are things that this whole wheel of life deals with is that's the topics we're dealing with is getting out of your comfort zone. It doesn't have to hurt. Sometimes you just has to pinch a little bit. You
Right.
just got to be nudged, especially the older you get. And I'm not talking 50s. I'm just talking 25, 30 years old. um, you start getting in the comfort zone
Right.
and in your whole life, and it's important to learn more, and that's learning, and it's fun.
Right. Right. Well, and so specifically, I remember when you sent me the photo, and then I thought, oh my God, I think I pushed too far, right? And then I found, because I didn't know whether you bought a new Corvette or any of that,
Right,
and
right,
you
right,
bought, like a very nice, but not new,
right.
you didn't spend like the whole
No, I didn't.
savings
Yeah, no, I didn't.
to go get it,
Right.
but you made what was a really important decision about your lifestyle. And then the part that I love the most, JT, is when you talk now about even what that Corvette means to you today. And what does it mean?
It's just the end of hard work. It's no different than doing a bodybuilding show. It's the end of the hard work and the things I've done and the drive I've had. I earned that,
Right.
and I gave it to myself.
Right.
That's basically what I did. I gave myself a gift, but I earned everything for it.
Right.
So that's what it really was, a big gift to me.
And that's what it feels like to me is full circle,
Yeah,
right? Because
certainly.
I love you. I love to hear, like, I can feel the enthusiasm when you talk about driving that car
Oh,
on the
yeah.
weekends and things of that nature. Like you just feel differently.
I'm a different guy. It's just a success mobile.
I love it.
It's my mantelpiece.
Right.
It's my gold ring.
I love that. Okay. Well, now we're going to make a fun segue into bodybuilding. So, why don't you tell the audience? I mean, the forte that we're about to talk about, bodybuilding in your 50s. This is obviously look at your physical stature. This is not your first forte.
Right.
So, just tell the audience a little bit. I mean, you've really been had a big part of physical fitness and bodybuilding really for the majority of your life.
Yeah, yeah. I've been a bodybuilder for a long time. I started lifting weights at a real early age, very athletic. Um, and I started bodybuilding in my late teens, competed and won several shows in my late 20s. And then I got a corporate job where I traveled a lot, and it just wasn't possible. It just wasn't possible at that time for me to continue that. So I went into just a place of just normalness. Um, and then I met AJ at the CrossFit gym on my 50th birthday. I drove by there several times. And my goal was on my 50th birthday, I'm going in.
Hmm.
So I walked in and I said, I need to get rolling. And we got rolling. And that was kind of the start. I did that for 3 years, really enjoyed it, loved it, competed, had a ton of fun. Um, but the first day, he said, how long are you going to do this? And I said, till I'm not getting better. And I'm right around 53, I stopped getting better. It just wasn't any fun when I wasn't getting better. And that's an age related deal. That's just how it is. Anybody says age is a number is an idiot. There's a time where your body just goes, I can't do this kind of stuff
Mm.
as good as I could a year ago. Um, so I stopped. And I didn't have a B plan because you weren't around. You were around. We weren't discussing it at that time. Because by the time you and I started coaching together, um, I had already quit CrossFit, but I was coaching.
Okay.
So I wasn't actively involved in it. So I took some time off and started bodybuilding over at Diesel. Robert Farrell, a really good friend of mine. And we were getting ready for a show. I was 55 and we were about 6 months out and I tore my bicep in a freak accident, totally freak accident in the gym. Um, and that just ruined everything because I am an all or nothing guy.
Mm.
I can either do everything or I'm not going to do anything. So I took a couple years off, about a year off, gained a lot of weight, got up to 260,
Mm.
just miserable. And then finally fanned the flames and went back into diesel and said, let's get rolling. And then last year in October, I competed again at 57
Wow.
and did really well. Liked it. It was a lot of fun. And that's it, man. Here we are.
Yeah.
You know,
I see you brought your photo.
that's just a little before and after.
Little before and after
Kind
from
of.
the
This is a
so
that was 1 year.
that was a year from the one photo to the next.
Yeah.
How when you competed, what was your body fat percentage?
We went back up. I got down to about 4. Um, but then we had a strategy because the guys that had done it the year before were really small but really cut. So we decided to kind of go in big. So I went up to about 6.5
Okay.
at 210.
Okay.
So I was real
On
happy with that.
competition
Yeah,
day.
it kind of backfired on me. But I looked exactly how I wanted to look, and that's really the key. Did I want to
Which
win?
in my mind was phenomenal.
Yeah, did I want to win? Absolutely, but that wasn't the point.
Right.
The point was to prove to myself I still had it, and I do, and it was great.
Well, that was maybe you should let me keep one of those.
Yeah, you
Can
can have that. Yeah, absolutely.
keep my own memory book going? So that competition, JT, that is outside of some of the physical things that I've done in my own life,
Mm,
whether that be, running marathons or ultras or, military things I think about.
right.
Like when I saw you going through that matter of fact, I was almost worried for you, like whatever, about 2 or 3 months before the competition, right? Because you were going into a super intense time. Like it had been intense
Right,
the
right.
whole
The
time,
super
but
intense.
you were
Right,
going into super intense time
right.
with your physical training, with your nutrition specifically, and then even your mindset. And I
Correct.
think what I was worried more about was the things that, and this was just your coach's
Right,
perspective, like things that you were having to trade off,
right,
right? To like go all in on a goal like this, which is to compete in a bodybuilding competition
right,
in your mid 50s
right,
and compete
right,
like literally on stage, like make the final showing
right,
and the whole pose off and the whole thing, which I was there for,
right.
like crying like a baby in the back of the room, like watching you do your thing. And I was as much worried about the trade off. So um to compete at that level. I mean, my whole point in all this was to say, like, I don't think I've even seen in myself the level of like intensity that you had for that part of the competition.
Right.
So I don't know any other reflections on
Well,
that.
yeah. I mean, with bodybuilding, it's totally different because when you're getting ready for a show, there's no time off. There's no meal off. There's no, your water is all delegated. Your meals are completely what they are per gram. Your exercises are exactly what you say they're going to be. Your weights are all selected. Your cardio is all selected. Your sleep is selected. I mean, I think going into this though, with the using the book and with the wheel of life, I knew something was going to suffer, and so I could let people around me know that.
Right.
Where before I didn't care.
Mm,
But people knew, I knew that my job was going to suffer a little bit. You know, my home life was going to suffer. My family was going to suffer. My friends, because I'm not out and about. I can't go to a restaurant or bars with my friends and go to a birthday party. I really can't
right.
because I can't take the chance that I'm gonna blow it.
Right.
And yeah, it's super intense because it's a 24/7 gig. But it's the greatest thing I ever did.
Yeah.
And
Well, like I'm saying, JT, like that is as focused as I've ever seen somebody on a specific objective. And like like I said, when I was standing in the back of that room watching you do the pose off, like one of the proudest, like I'm a dad and I'm a
yeah,
war veteran and all these other things. And it was like one of the proudest moments that I've ever had in my life.
well, you're a part of it. And that's the fun part of being a coach.
Yeah.
And fun part of people having around you that know your goals
Yeah.
is when you hit it, you're like, we got a Corvette,
Right.
you know?
Right. Incidentally, I still haven't driven.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Neither's my wife. You're in good company.
I know my place. All right. So, last couple of questions. Are there any tools? So, we've talked about in the 3 years that we've worked together, you mentioned it even in the beginning about the submarine and
Right,
what you were referring to as day tight compartments. But
right.
there's been a ton of tools that we've implemented, that you've implemented in your life that we've talked about. Is there any tool or any other strategy that I haven't asked the question about specifically today that you think you might want to share with the audience that might be
Well, I
helpful
think
to them?
gratitude, man.
Okay.
Having the actual gratitude list, and that's the same as we talked about meditation or Zen day, is you start out small, but you have no idea how many things you have in life to be grateful for. And those are going to save you in the rough times. But it's important for me to do that daily. Every morning I start my day, I pull into my office and I sit in my truck and I do my gratitude list.
Mm,
And then and it grows and it changes. You know, at first you'll have just the same ones. I'm grateful for my house, my wife, my car, my job. But then you get friends and you get coaches and you get people in your life and you roll through that. And then on the other side of that is the I am list. And that's who I am. And I think it's very important that we speak to ourselves highly, and speak to ourselves confidently on who we are. And that's that part of that list. And
gratitude.
that puts me into where I need to be,
It's
and
beautiful.
that's the way to start your day. And if I'm having a hard day, I'll stop and do that on the way home, right across the street at the school there.
Hmm.
It takes 5 minutes. But that gratitude, if I had a rough day or I'm something's gnawing on me, if I stop and do that gratitude list, it lets me know all these great things that are happening for me. And
Mm,
then if I do that I am list, I realize who I am. I'm not a depressed guy. I'm not tired. I'm not lazy. I'm not this. I'm like, maybe a customer said you're this, you're
right.
that. I'm not that guy. This is who I am, sir.
Right.
You want to see my list? Let me show it to you right quick. And I think that's if you're doing that daily, you're constantly just keeping yourself in a state of gratitude, and then you'll get more.
Right.
You
That's
know,
awesome.
yeah, it's cool.
Love that. Okay. So we'll make this our last question. And really, the whole purpose of the interview is to really just kind of talk about, as I stated in the beginning, things that, have worked well in your life, what our work together has meant. And so the other part is for somebody that might be considering coaching, somebody that had never, and you've had coaches in your life before
Right,
because you've been on the sales part of the equation, and sales people in general, I think, are better at hiring coaches. You've been
right,
the whole physical fitness thing, and you've had coaches in your life like Pharaoh and guys
right,
like that.
right.
But I'd say the majority of people, like one on one coaching is kind of foreign because
Correct.
not many people have, I'm not fond of the term like life coach. I prefer
Right,
like performance coach
right.
or things of that nature. But if somebody were considering coaching or considering me as a coach, what are some of the things that you might share from your perspective, either from our work together or just what you know about coaching in general, that you
Right.
think would be
I,
helpful?
I I've been coaches my entire life, but as far as a performance coach, you're not directing my moral life. You're directing my performance. And I think that's really important. I think a lot of people think you're going to get into it and you're going to be pushing towards being a good person or being this. Well, if you're a criminal and you want goals on how to rob a bank, bring them in.
Right.
We'll give you goals.
Right.
The life changing part of it is I knew I needed a coach, and I've been around coaches. I've been to being in sales my whole life. I've been to several seminars. I mean, seminar, coaching, coaching, coaching. But when we met, I just knew something was there,
Mm,
and it, you know, there's no way I would have challenged myself in order to meet these goals without you.
mm,
I wouldn't have challenged. Could I meet them without you? Yeah. Would I have challenged myself to do it? No, I wouldn't have. And that's the thing is we come up with goals. Everybody has goals. Everybody's going to write them down. Well, that's the start.
right.
Write them down, put them in a book, set them in your, and then, let's rub a, rabbit's foot and hope it comes true.
Right.
We make strategies on how to do it. Can you really do this? Yeah, I can do this bodybuilding show. Okay. What's the strategy? Well, I got to get hold of Pharaoh. When are you going to do that? I'll call him on tomorrow and I'll make an appointment for Friday.
Right.
That's how we do it. We plan our attack. We
Yes.
plan our performance. And that's the difference is I can do that by myself, but I'm not disciplined enough to do it. I
Mm.
can't push myself.
So what I hear there is accountability.
Yeah,
So
accountability. Yeah,
there's a piece of accountability. There's a part of systems,
right,
right? So sometimes it's implementing different tools,
right,
whether that
certainly.
be like the OnePage Plan, for example,
Right.
right? Which maybe gives you more clarity now around purpose, or
Right.
I like to call it like the North Star.
Right.
That's how my OnePage Plan
Correct.
acts for me. Like I tell people all the time, my OnePage Plan tells me as much about what I'm not going to do
Right.
as much as what I'm going
Correct.
to do. And sometimes that's almost the most important part of the equation is what you're not going
Yeah,
to
it
do.
just keeps you grounded. And I think that people, I would challenge them. The other thing is, it's an investment. So if you're going to go, it's kind of like CrossFit. People go, CrossFit, $150. I can go to EOS for 10.
Right.
How many people go to EOS? How many people have EOS memberships for $10 a month? Never go.
Right.
CrossFit's not like that
Not
because it's an investment. If you're dropping $150, you're dropping $150. You're going to go.
right.
So it's the same thing. If you want to be accountable, you want to make a plan, and you want to really bring out the most performance you can give yourself in all areas of your life, this is the way to go. What we've done is incredible in 3 years. So,
And that's how I see it.
yeah, absolutely, man.
The work that all the hard work, the meetings. You talked a little bit about the accountability. That's one thing that I really stress with my clients in the beginning is like I tend to give people the amount of energy that they're giving me,
Right,
right? So if you show up to the meetings that we're having together and you show up engaged and you're writing things down and you want to learn and you want to try, even though it's
right,
like uncharted territory or get outside your comfort zone, right? Like those are the kind of things that I look for in the client because I have to want to work with the client as much as they might want to work with me. And I
right.
think that's an
Well, I
incredible.
think you don't take any of my crap, so I can't lie to you. If I say I'm going to call Farrell on Friday and I see you the following week, or you text me on Saturday and go, "Hey, how'd your conversation with Farrell go?" I can't go, "Oh, it went great." Okay, because we have a relationship there.
Hmm.
So I need to get myself in gear.
Yep.
I need to say, okay, well, I didn't call him Friday. I'm calling him right now, and I call him right now. Okay, but if you show up to the table on your every 2 week visit and you didn't do what you said you were going to do, you're not there to waste anybody's time.
Right.
You just give them the money back, tell them to have a nice day.
Right.
You need to do your work. And that's what we show up with work. If I didn't do a Zen day, I'm not going to make up a Zen day. Oh, yeah, I didn't make it.
Right.
Well, why not? Well, let's make sure this doesn't. How do we make this not happen again?
Right.
Okay, and that's barriers get in the way, and you help knock down barriers.
Love that. Cool. JT, I can't thank you enough for having this conversation with me today, for being open enough to not, I don't think, and I don't expect everybody to be, but it was wonderful that you were able and capable of talking about the work that we've done together. And my hope is that that's going to help other people who might be on the fence about deciding whether they want coaching in general and to coach with me specifically. And like I said in the beginning, like I feel like our work as a one-on-one coach might have come to an end,
Right.
but our relationship, like as brothers going
Certainly.
forward.
So we've been through battles, man.
Exactly.
And we want them,
Exactly.
you know.
Love it. Thank you so much for
Appreciate
your
it, man.
time.
Thank you.